Thanks for having me. I will try to go quickly and just sort of give some quick hits of some of the things that we've been working on in domains related to transparency and trust. And the first thing I want to say is actually when I say transparency, I mean something specific, and it's a little bit different than the way some other people use that word. So transparency definitely means honesty and telling people what you are doing and giving information about what you're doing. But that's a good thing to do, and it's a good communications effort to explain to people who you are and what it is that you do. But when I say transparency, what I mean is actually being fully transparent in everything you're doing. And I particularly mean this funny thing where you can actually show your work. I'll show you some examples of what I mean showing your work actually means. But very, very often companies are doing many, many things for their customers, and they're completely hidden. And that means that customers don't know that you're doing those things for them. We think they kind of know, but in fact they often don't know. And we encourage companies to be transparent about your operations and about all the services you're providing without it being a burden and making it interesting for your customers. So I'll give you a few examples of how we do this. So the first place that we did this was actually in the domain of searching for flights online. So we know, and you've searched for flights online on Orbitz and on Kayak and sites like that. And we know that when you do that, you have to wait. You say, I want to go to LA and something else, and click things in, and then you have to wait. It looks for the flights for you. And you can see actually on Orbitz, what it'll do is, it's still this way. It's a progress bar that slowly fills up. It's a blue screen, progress bar slowly fills up. And on Kayak, what it does instead is, it tells you what it's doing. It actually says, now we're looking through this, now we're looking through this. And it's updating the flights as it goes. In the end, they basically give you the same flights. They're searching the same airlines. They may have some subtle differences, but more or less they're giving you the same thing. But what happens is that when you see Kayak, they're showing you all the things they're doing for you. And when you see Orbitz, you don't know what they're doing for you. You're just sitting there like an idiot staring at a blue screen. And what we think is, we usually think that the way to solve that problem is to speed it up. So what would be better is if we took waiting out altogether. So imagine if we just improved the algorithm so you hit submit and bam, the flights came up. That is usually true in online service. We know that people like faster service. But when you make it instantaneous, then people can't see anything you're doing for them. It just feels like it was easy for you to do because it took you so little time, and therefore they might undervalue what you're doing for them. And I'll suggest actually people can like it more if you make them wait, if you show them what you're doing while you make them wait. So we did a very simple mock-up of this. Basically, we had one travel website that we made that looks like Orbitz, where you just see a progress bar, and another one with what we call transparency, basically, where it's showing you everything that it's doing. And then we have people try these different sites, and we also have them try a site where they get the results immediately. So some of them they wait with a progress bar, some of them they wait and it shows you all the cool stuff. Some of them it says, boom, here's your results. And they're very similar to, so we asked search for flight. The blind one is just a progress bar and it's boring. The transparency one, it's updating this as it goes. It's saying, now we're looking through JetBlue, now we're looking through American, and that interface changes as it moves. And then at the end, we just ask people, which of these sites do you like better? And it turns out that people like the one that makes them wait more than the one that gives them the results right away, even though the results are basically exactly the same as they are in the real world. And it even holds to as long as, and this is an insane number, 30 seconds. So waiting 30 seconds online is waiting like 7 days in the real world. I mean, that's an incredibly long time to wait. But if you see what it's doing, and if it's still finding things for you, what you feel like is it's doing an amazing job. It really is finding me the greatest flights in the history of the world, even though we know secretly that they're exactly the same flights. In fact, we can even ask people this question: how hard was the algorithm working for you? And they say, the algorithm was working very hard for me. Now, algorithms, you may know, are not things that work. They don't have sweat, but it feels like it's sweating for you, and that makes people like the service a lot. A couple more examples that we've worked in. One is in online dating, which is an amusing place to work. So imagine if you've ever, I used to say, has anyone done online dating, but it's awkward, so I won't ask that question. But if you've ever done online dating, or you know someone who has, you know that on many of the websites you enter, I want women between this age and they should be this tall and something else and something else. And then it basically says, here's your matches. Here's all the people we found for you. And there's pages and pages of this that you can find. We do the exact same thing that we do with flights, where we say, instead of here's all your matches, we say, now we're finding people who are that tall. Now we're finding people who are that religion. Now we're finding people who are, and then in the end we show them the same results as always, and they like the service much more, and they're more willing to express interest in going on a date with that person. It feels like it did a better job for you, even though we're giving you the same results, because I showed you all of the things that I'm doing on your behalf. The other place that we've done this is we call them rejection agents. And the idea here is anytime you go online and search for something, it'll say, here's what we think you'll like. People like you also like this. Or given what you've bought in the past, you're going to like this too. It's always upselling. Always it's saying, here's the things we know you'll like. And it never says, here's the things that we know you don't like. Because why would you do that? Because people aren't going to buy anything they don't like. But in the real world, people who know you well often know the things you don't like. So your mom knows that you don't like soup that tastes like something or other. And she'll say, no, you're not going to like that sweater because it's got a weird neck. They know these things about you, and it means they care and understand you. We can actually do experiments where we have people, if a website says, here's things we think you'll like, here's things we think you'll like, and things we know you won't like, you're more likely to buy these things on the right, on your left, because you think, now this website really understands me. Wow, that algorithm was really working hard for me a lot. It's most fun in online dating, actually, because what we can do an interface where faces pop up, and then the good ones go over to the one side, and the rejects get X'd and go over there. And it really feels like, oh my God, this is doing so much work for me. This is really great. So let me give you just a couple other examples, and then I'll knock off. You may be familiar, especially if you have kids, with Domino's Pizza Tracker. Pizza Tracker is it used to be when you ordered a pizza, you'd call somebody up, and then you'd just wait. No idea what's happening with the pizza. The kids are going crazy. You're really hungry. Everyone's getting irritated. Pizza Tracker, you do it online, you order your thing, and you can see that it basically says order placed, prep, baking, box, delivery. You can track it as it goes. It's showing, you know that this is what pizza does. I mean, you know that someone has to bake it and put it in a box. It's not new information, but it's reminding you of all the things they're doing for you, and people really, really responded well to this thing. The other great thing is that instead of the kids running around and screaming, they'll sit and watch it, which is amazing. I mean, that is a huge win for parents because it's so interesting to see what they're doing. You could even think about having a GPS interface where you can watch the driver. You know, he's taking a left, here he comes. There's all sorts of ways. You know the driver's driving to you, but seeing it changes how you feel about it. Last thing that I'll talk about, this is not my data, but data from another researcher. This is a little bit tricky to understand, but it's the percentage of people who have taken advantage of these government services who say, I have never used a government social program. And the numbers are just enormous. So student loans, 53% of people who have taken out student loans through the government say, I have never used a government social program. 53% of people, and all the way down the line, the GI Bill, Medicare, Head Start. Enormous numbers of people who've used government programs believe they have never, ever in their lives used a government program. And there's probably many, many reasons for that, but one is we don't think about it like that. The government never shows us anything that it's doing. We never see anything happening, so I guess there's some people in a building who administer Head Start, but I never met them. So I've never used any government programs. My life is going just fine. We've tried to combat this problem a little bit by trying to show people in certain domains what the government is doing for them to see if we show you what they're doing, maybe you'll feel like now the government is actually doing some work for me. So if you are from around here, you know that this is a map of Boston and Cambridge and Boston, and this is Storrow Drive. The city has been working with a group, and we've been working with them now as well, to, you can basically call 311. Other cities have this too. New York has this, and Chicago, I think, also, to say there's a pothole, or there's a street sign missing, or whatever else is wrong. People call in with actually all sorts of crazy things, like, I feel sad, which the city can't help as much. That's a harder one. And maybe they can, I don't know. And what happens now is when you call in, it'll give you a map of the city. And see at the bottom, it basically says, this is how many requests were opened yesterday. This is how many were closed yesterday. This was a good day because closed is bigger than opened. Some people we give them information about the website, and you can call in, and the government's doing this for you. And we're giving them information that the government's providing this service. And then we show them this picture. The more interesting one is some people, we do the exact same thing, but we show them this picture. And this picture, you can actually click on anything. You can hover your mouse over it, and it says at the corner of Walnut and Chestnut, there was a pothole fixed yesterday. And even there will be a picture, in some cases, of the fix. It's amazing, right? Because when you see a pothole in the street, you're so mad, you're infuriated with the government for not fixing the pothole. If there's no potholes, you never say thanks. When you're driving smoothly, every minute you don't say thanks, 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 there's no potholes. This shows you all the things that the government is doing. There used to be a pothole there and now there's not. And you can hover and play with it and all sorts of things like that. So again, it's transparency, it is honesty because you're really filling the potholes, but it's also showing you the work. And again here, so some of the questions that we ask people, they actually want bigger government now after we show them that, which is a very hard thing to get Americans to agree to, as you can imagine. They say, wow, I didn't know government was so good, but let's get more of it. And my favorite one actually is that government does a better job than it's given credit for. And that's exactly what we want people to feel, is you don't have to love the government. I mean, the government's not perfect, of course, but the idea is that it's doing all of these things and we have no idea, and we can show you how to do those. I will, I think, knock off there, but I guess the last thing I'll say is think about all the places that you're providing services for your customers where you're doing an enormous amount of work and they have no idea that you're doing it for them. It's incredibly common. If you break down the business and wherever customers interface with you, it's incredibly common that you're doing amazing things and they have absolutely no idea that you're doing them. And you can stand there and say, we're great, we're great, we're great, and that's fine. Or you can say, check this out, look what we're doing. So like the US Post Office has some places where, when you mail a letter and they type in 50,000 things, and you say, how could it possibly take so long? I'm just trying to mail a letter. Well, some of the postal offices now, the screen's facing you. And you can see what it is that they're typing in. And they have to type in stuff. You want the letter to get there, they have to route it and all sorts of things like this. And some airlines are doing this as well, where when they're typing for 1 million hours and you say, I just need to get on the flight to New York, they're showing you what they're typing in. You might still not like waiting, but you're seeing that something is happening on your behalf, and people like it a lot more. So I'd encourage you, and I'm happy to chat about different ways you can show people the work you're doing, and they'll really value it when you do. And I will knock off there. Thank you.